Welcome to the Customer Success Playbook podcast that's all about elevating your customer success game. I'm Roman Trebon, and with me is my co-host, Kevin Metzger. We're here to bring you the latest insights, inspiration, and expertise from top leaders in the field of customer success. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out in the industry, we believe that through meaningful conversations with industry experts, we can all stay focused on where the profession is headed and continue to learn and grow. We're passionate about helping others and sharing our knowledge with the community. So let's dive in and let's take your customer success game to the next level. Today on the show, we're talking about proactivity in customer success and how by anticipating customers' future needs and constantly seeking improvements, businesses can increase customer retention and drive growth. For those that are new to the podcast, let's be proactive with a little bit about ourselves. So I'm Roman Trebon. I have 20 plus years working with businesses and clients to enhance customer experiences, drive revenue growth, and increase profitability, and ultimately develop long-term customer loyalty. A lot of my experience has been in the banking and financial services space, and I spent a lot of time working with and in contact centers. I was most recently Vice President of Sales Operations at a large global issuing processor, and I'm now independently consulting. I'm passionate about empowering organizations to create stellar customer journeys, which is what has drawn me to this customer success space. That's a little bit about me, and now I'll turn it over to my co-host, Kevin.
Hey, Roman. So in my background, I've had a diverse range of experiences, starting from when I was a kid, all of which gave me experience with serving customers. Whether it was working as a lifeguard, ski instructor, or professional petroleum injector, they all contributed to my experience delivering for customers. I've also worked in information systems for the previous 20 plus years, where I've gained experiences in business and functional analysis, project management, systems architecture, merger integrations, technical account management, as well as customer success. On top of that, I've had the opportunity to work on some exciting projects like helping start a nonprofit and building a social media project called the Dadvocate Project. So that's a little about me, Roman. Let's get into the show.
All right. Well, with that background, let's jump into tonight's topic, proactivity in customer success. Now, there are a lot of ways to be proactive in customer success, but we're going to focus on three specific topics tonight. One, anticipating customer needs. Two, proactive communication. And three, getting your customer success managers to think proactively. Now, let's get into anticipating customer needs. Anticipating customer needs involves, the proactive identification and understanding of what your customers will require, often before the customers themselves are even aware of those needs. Now, this can include, understanding their business goals and strategy, potential obstacles they may encounter when using your company's product or service, predicting questions and concerns they may have. So with that, Kevin, what are some techniques for gaining a deeper understanding of customers, their challenges, and their goals that you have utilized or seen work?
Yeah, so there's a few items that can really help drive being proactive, including understanding goals across your customer base and how customers are using tools. Gaining this understanding of your customers and their common data, you can proactively identify trends that will help drive your customer's business forward. So you really want to look at everything that's occurring across your customer base, right? And that'll help you kind of look at what kind of goals they have across your customers, and you can actually see consistencies in how you can proactively help customers achieve their goals. By keeping in constant contact with your customers, you can actively be looking at customer goals and implementing strategies to measure their progress towards their objectives. And by doing this, you help customers realize how they are effectively achieving their goals, when they need to change strategy, and how to make those changes happen proactively, if that makes sense, Robert.
It does. So you really got to keep the pulse on your client, their business needs, how the business is performing, how they're utilizing the product, et cetera. Is that right, Kevin?
That's correct. Driving home the fact that as you're doing this on a client, you should be doing this on all clients, and then looking at that data. And as you're looking at the data across all of your clients, you will see commonalities that will help you be proactive across your clients, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think the clients are looking for the customer success manager to be the expert, right? You're dealing with a lot of different clients that are using these products or services, right? And so as a customer success manager with all that data and insight and metrics, tell me, the customer, what I should be doing. Should I be using the product differently? Should I be, is there a better way to utilize this solution? Come to me with those proactive recommendations, help guide me on how to be successful.
Right. So the customer is an expert on their goals, right? But you, as the customer success manager, should be an expert on your product and how your product is helping them achieve their goals. And you will have seen, right, other customers trying to achieve similar goals and strategies that they used. Can you bring those strategies? Obviously, you're not sharing other customers' data or information, but you can bring strategies across your customers. And that's one of the reasons why companies come to use your products and want to be invested in you.
No, it's so important, Kevin. And I think that's something you constantly have to do to make sure you're anticipating those needs, right? Because they're always evolving and changing. So, Kevin, I'll transition here to proactive communication, our second topic tonight. Kevin, I think you were the one who once told me, and if you weren't, I'm going to give you credit for this one, Kevin, because I love this line. It was, bad news doesn't get better with age. And when I think of proactive communication, I tend to think about situations where a product's getting sunset, or there was a service outage and I need to, I want to proactively communicate that to a client or customer before they come to me with it. I definitely don't want them to come to us. I want to be proactive. But, really, proactive communication is well beyond just delivering bad news proactively, right? It's the practice of reaching out to customers with useful information, guidance, and support before they ask for it and before a problem arises. It's really an approach that anticipates the customer's questions, their concerns, and their needs, and addresses it ahead of time, rather than we said, like waiting for the customer to initiate contact. So Kevin, with that, in your experience, how has proactive communication played a role in your strategy for customer success? And, what positive impacts have you seen from this approach?
Yeah. So I think one of the best ways to answer this question is to talk about what happens when you're not proactive in communications. If you fail to be proactive, customers lose trust, they lose confidence, they lose respect for you, and they lose respect for your company. So, some of the examples you are having, if there's a service outage or something like that, if you are able to actively jump on that scenario and let a customer know it's happening before they've even experienced it, or before they've been contacted by their customers. Let's say your contact's in IT, and they know what's happening and they're able to respond to their customers when their customers reach out to them. Yes, we're aware there's an issue. We are actively working on resolving it. If you have an ETA, even better, right? Mm-hmm. So the more proactive you can be, and proactivity here in communications with something like that is really broad, right? It goes all the way back to how you operate and how you design your going back to our last episode, your playbooks for allowing you to know what's happening proactively. So really, again, you don't want to not be proactive. If you're a proactive customer, if you are proactive, your customers believe you have their best interest in mind and are much more accepting when you bring up a problem and suggestion. Customers grow to see you as the trusted partner that we all want to be. And that's what happens when you're proactive about communicating. Now, there's a lot of plays around proactive communication, from how you respond to emails within a certain amount of time. You don't even need to have an answer, but maybe you need to be able, you should be given an ETA.
Mm-hmm.
If you're responding to issues, or better yet, proactively notifying customers about issues as they appear. Kind of what I mentioned before. And when it comes time for contract renewal, making sure any terms or price changes are discussed early and up front, so that the customer is knowing what to expect, and it makes the whole process go easier before you ever get into an actual negotiation. So, Roman, I have a question for you. In your experience, what areas have you found it's best to be proactive? We're talking a lot about customer facing, but what about internal?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the principles, Kevin, you talked about apply internally as well, right? So, I think about it being proactive in managing organizational change. We whether that's implementing new systems, new processes, or new policies, there's always reluctance to change, right? And I find it helps mitigate resistance and ensures a smoother transition when change happens, when you proactively communicate the reason for the change, right? You address those concerns early and upfront. And that, if you do that, that can improve the buy-in and the adoption, much, much better than just saying, hey, we're doing this change and here's what to expect, and good luck with it, right? So I think that's a key one, is being proactive on why the change is happening, understanding what their concerns may be, providing an outlet to surface those concerns, and then moving forward with your plan, right? And we talked a little bit about anticipating needs, and it goes for internal change as well. So I think anticipating stakeholder requirements, understanding their expectations, what's expected of them, their priorities, what their goals and objectives are, seeking their feedback. That's a great way to get them on board, get teams aligned, especially if you're working cross-functionally, to get to really help make change management successful and stick. And then, I think, Kevin, the last is, anytime you're working on, big change projects, a lot of, most times, if not all the time, there's going to be delays. There's going to be issues that arise. But be proactive in communicating those, right? I think the worst situations that I've seen is where people they keep those issues silent, right? And then they tend to bubble up and they become way bigger than they would have been if you just would have been proactive early on. Now, you have to come with a mitigation plan and how you're going to resolve this, and a potential escalation plan as well. But be proactive with this. And I think it goes back, Kevin, when I've dealt with being proactive internally, it probably is the same with customers. It builds trust, right? If I'm proactive, sharing good news, bad news, or just informational knowledge to internal stakeholders, they know they can trust me, because I'm gonna come to them when issues arise or whatever it may be. And I'm assuming you've seen the same thing with customers, adopting that proactive approach.
Yeah, 100%. And I really like what you're talking about when you're from project. If you think about that, yeah, projects, internal projects, whether you're doing onboarding projects, they're very similar, right? And practices of project management are very similar. You've got the PMBOK for project management, and whether you're following that process or whether you're, I'm sorry, I'm struggling to say this, but when you're in a project and you are proactively communicating your dates, and you're proactively communicating your blockers and your issues, and you're doing all of that, that's how you run a successful project. And it's how you have projects that seem to always come in on time. Yeah. Because it's on time if everybody agrees to an adjusted schedule when there's a blocker that's hit, and we decide we have to adjust dates because everybody's made that decision, right? Ultimately. And if even better is when you're communicating that up and down and you get the support you need, and the blocking item just gets demolished and you blow right through it so that it's no longer a blocker and you're staying on target for your days.
Yeah, so that makes a ton of sense, Kevin. Let me ask you this. So on this topic about proactive communication, I'm going to put my client hat on here for a second. And when you're being proactive and communicating with clients, how do you strike that balance where you're not overwhelming them with too much information? And what I mean by that is, as a client, I've had partners of mine that it's every day it's an email, and it's, and I like some of them. I like, hey, here's our roadmap. Here's some stuff that's coming. But then it's like, here's a webinar. Look at this info sheet. Look, and it's just nonstop information where I can't weed out the valuable items from the noise. And then what ends up happening, Kevin, at least for me, and I'm sure others, I just tune it out, right? So instead of providing me valuable information that I can really, use and incorporate into the business, I just turn it off because it's too much. And so curious how you find that balance when being proactive with customers.
Yeah, and that's a complicated question, to be honest, because it's going to depend and be different based on what your product is, your customer market segment, and other factors as well, right? I mainly supported mission critical type software. So it's been imperative that I have regular weekly touch bases for the operational nature of that business. Additionally, we proactively schedule our monthly ops meetings and our quarterly business reviews. And that sets up your cadence for your regular communication, for the type of information that's going to be communicated in those meetings, et cetera. And when dealing with mission critical applications, I always set up kind of like a yearly calendar for the customer that looks at when they're going to do a DR, when they're going to have freeze periods, additional reporting during the freeze periods, if there's types of reporting that gets needed, what the monthly patching schedules are, et cetera. All this is part of being proactive and ensuring we're communicating effectively. And it allows for when there's the other items that need to be reached out on, that it provides a structure for everything. So all of your regular communications fall into that. And then if there's issues or something like that arise, a phone call is okay because you've covered everything else during your kind of regular communication structure.
Yeah. I think it's probably, Kevin, a lot of coordinating with other departments as well, right? I mean, I like how you kind of laid out a plan and, the channel you communicate with the client. I mean, that can, maybe at an ad hoc basis, things arise. It may be a phone call, it may be a text, whatever it may be for clients. I think there's probably a lot of internal coordination where you don't have 8 different groups, pinging the client, with different messages as well.
Yeah. And that's truly for high touch scenarios, right? Now, as you move towards lower touch and tech touch, or maybe you want to bring some of your tech touch items or social items, that webinars and things like that, up into your high touch clients, figuring out how to deliver those might be different. But if you have what you believe is going to be a truly value add seminar, right, you can mention it in the weekly meeting that's coming up, and figuring out the right methods for inserting those additional pieces of information and giving your client the opportunity to participate. And I really think, especially with your high touch clients, you want to give them the opportunity to participate in things, but you don't want to force it down their throat. Now, when you move down to your low touch customers or your tech touch customers, there you're proactively sending communications, and it's definitely a different strategy. To be honest, I hadn't really thought through preparing an answer on that. It's probably something we should touch on another podcast.
Yeah, I like that phrase, and how did you say it's allow them to participate? Kevin, what was that phrase you used instead of forcing it down their throats?
Yeah, basically giving them the opportunity to participate. I love that. And it's because, I know internally I've worked with teams and we've put together a webinar for clients, and
And internally, it's the biggest thing, right? Like we put so much energy into this, and it's all hands on deck. And, we've done dry runs and we've got all these great metrics. And so for us, we want every client to be there, right? Every client should join. There's so much value, but you're right. We need to give them an opportunity to participate, right? And again, it's their priorities. What's happening in their day-to-day may be different. And so we give them the opportunity, be it either maybe, again, I'll just use this, stay on this webinar example, the opportunity to participate live. And maybe if they can't, maybe it's a recorded session afterwards. And if maybe they don't have time for that, hey, maybe my customer success manager can kind of give them the highlights, right? I mean, there's different ways you can give them that opportunity. And I love that. I love that phrasing. And I love that the way you position that with, giving the clients the opportunity to participate on their terms.
Yeah.
So Kevin, we're going to get into topic number 3. And I think this is the one I'm maybe most excited about. Not that I wasn't excited about anticipating needs or proactive communication, but, it's the getting your customer success managers to think proactively, right? Now we talked about the importance of proactive communication, but let's delve a little deeper into the mindset that truly makes a difference in customer success. It's not just about anticipating needs in the communication. I think maybe the most important of all is fostering that proactive thinking culture within all of your customer success managers, right? And it's this proactive approach which is crucial for anticipating future needs, preventing potential issues, and driving overall satisfaction and loyalty. So let me ask you this question. How can we get customer success managers to think more proactively? We talked about playbooks. You can give them a playbook. You can give them a communication plan. But, you, Kevin, as a leader, how do you encourage this proactive mindset in your team? And then, if you can share maybe some examples, or how do you celebrate successes that result from the proactive approach? And I'd love even the latter, right? I love celebrating successes. And so when you see change happening, how do you recognize that? How do you build that into the team culture?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And, we spent some time prepping for this beforehand. And so I knew this question was coming, and it took me a few minutes to really think about it. I truly believe the answer to your question of how do you encourage a proactive mindset as a leader is by leading proactively, right? Yeah. So everything I said about how to communicate with the customer is true about communicating with your team and setting the expectations that your team communicate with you, with your business partners, and with your customers, all with the same kind of expectations set, right? What we are is what we do on a consistent basis, and how we're perceived is what we do on a consistent basis. And it's the consistency in being proactive across how you act everywhere that drives it. It shows leadership in it. You set the expectation of how to act, and then hopefully others will follow. On top of that, I've got daily stand-ups with my team to ensure there's proactive communication going in both directions, both down to them and back from them about customers. And I expect them to have, my team members to have proactive, whether it's daily or some kind of regular, it doesn't have to be daily, stand-up meetings with their operation teams. So that they're proactively communicating to their operation teams what's coming down the pipe. Even with customers, you want to kind of encourage your customers to be proactive with you, right? If your customers are giving you information at the last minute, it's really difficult for you to proactively prepare your teams and all of that. And again, this is one of those areas where sometimes as a CSM, in my opinion, you've got to go back to your customer and say, hey, look, I'm proactive with you. I set up all these things. I tell you when things are going to change on the project. If you bring something to me last minute, you can't expect me to react at last minute. Maybe I can do it one time, but I can't do it every time. And doing it one time, if I make it happen, if it's an emergency, I get it. It's an emergency. But it better be an emergency. If it happens again, it's not an emergency.
Yeah.
So, and you have to have those hard conversations, right? So but back, sorry that went off on a little rabbit trail there, but um, one of the other things I've done over time, and I did this a lot when I had kind of college graduates that I was working with, I would also kind of do these little inspirational speeches. I'd find a topic and that I wanted to kind of harp on and talk about how it's important that we follow through with this and we follow through with being proactive and what a great return you'll get on your investment in doing it, that kind of stuff. And I actually had one of my college grads start naming my little speeches Kevin's Corner. So, but I do that. I even with my my teams of more mature teams, I'll still do that on occasion. And then finally, as for celebrating successes, we do a Wins Wednesday where we ask everybody to share any wins that they've had that week. We ask asking the team basically to review their wins. When we have significant wins, I'll try to use whatever incentive system I've got available to me to provide some kind of compensation if possible, or whatever. And honestly, I truly, when we got big wins, I get excited, right? It's, you get a big win, that's awesome. Yeah. You want to celebrate it, and when that comes through and you are just truly thankful to the team who was able to get you there and help that win happen, and make sure that they hear that you're appreciative of the work that they did, and that it's important to you, it's important to the company, and you recognize, and I didn't put this down, but sending the recognition out as well to all of the team members, but also upwards to upper management.
Yeah. No, I love that, Kevin. I love Wins Wednesday, and coming right after Taco Tuesday, which is even better, right? So no, but all kidding aside, Kevin, I really do love that. So I mean, you touched on leading by example, right, which I think is so important. You talked about doing the daily stand-ups, which is that constant reinforcement, right? Like you're constantly reinforcing the proactivity, and then celebrating the wins, celebrating success, and like you said, the small wins, the big wins, like if you're in customer success, if you're focused on customer experience, if you don't get excited for those, then maybe you're in the wrong field, right? And so no, I love all of that. So Kevin, with that, it's time to wrap up this episode. But before we do, we've been kicking around this idea of introducing this rapid fire question section, because we're going to start to bring on guests onto the podcast, right? And so we wanted to do this rapid fire questions as this icebreaker for us to kind of get to know our guests a little better. Now, we can't ask them, Kevin, to do this exercise unless we go through it ourselves, right? So with that, Kevin, you're in the hot seat this week. Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go.
All right.
Bring it on.
What's one hobby you have outside of work that helps you unwind?
Yeah, I like to paint, and I will paint occasionally.
I like that. Early bird or night owl?
This is a complicated question. I've been a night owl most of my life, hit my 40s, became an early bird. I'm in my later 40s, and I hit 48 a couple of weeks ago. I feel like I'm going back to night owl. I'm not sure.
Rapid fire, Kevin. That's rapid fire. We need quick answers here. All right. Okay. Favorite movie?
Rocky.
I like that. Okay. Favorite ice cream?
Favorite ice cream?
Yes, I threw that. That wasn't even on the question sheet.
And I'm Oreo.
Oh, Oreo. Okay. I'm going to throw another one that wasn't on the sheet. Favorite all-time video game?
Ooh. Dig Dug.
Oh, Dig Dug's a great one. Okay. One place you'd want to travel where you have not already been?
Australia.
Oh, good one. All right. Last one. If you could have one superpower in your customer success role, what would it be?
Mind reader. Oh, I'm sorry. Goal. Customer goal. I don't know. Just being able to somehow
achiever. Goal achiever, super goal achiever. I like it. Kev, you did a great job. You're off the hot seat. Go get a drink and relax now. All right.
You didn't ask me the one I was looking forward to the most.
I know the answer to this. If you listen, so I threw you some some curveballs. I didn't want to give you a layup, so I gave you some ones that we didn't practice for. So again, who knows? We get another show without a guest. Maybe you'll be back on the hot seat. There's only two of us, so we got to run out of people to do it with. All right, Kevin, great job, and thank you to our audience for joining us on this episode of the Customer Success Playbook. We hope you found our conversation insightful and inspiring. Remember, whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, we're here to help you elevate your customer success game. I'm Roman Trebon, joined with Kevin Metzger, and we're passionate about sharing our knowledge and bringing you the latest from the world of customer success. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, comment, and share with your friends and colleagues. Spreading the word about our podcast helps us reach more people who, like you, are passionate about customer success. Join us again next time as we continue to explore the future of the profession and help you grow. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and take your customer success game to the next level. Kevin?
Keep on playing.